Hi, I'm Madison Murray and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, please consider clicking the subscribe button down below. And without further ado, let's get into my manga update. So, I looked back at my videos and I was like, when did I last do my manga collection update? And then I realized it's almost been like a year since I did my last manga update video, and I was like, oh, I do one at least once a year at this point, and it's where I update you on all the mangas I have purchased since the last update. So some of my books are in storage because I did move during 2020. So I might have bought some mangas that I don't actually have here with me, but I do have a lot here that I did buy. I do go into synopses of these books if they are the first in a series, but without further ado, let's get into my 2021 manga update video. So we're gonna start off like normal with the mangas that I bought that are not in English. So the first one is Akaito. This is a manga series that I bought. I got the first 5 volumes of it, but this is a series that I read as a scanlation and I freaking adored, and I saw it and I was like, oh, well, it hasn't been translated into English, it probably won't be, so might as well just buy it and then I can own it anyway, because if I really enjoy a series, I don't care if I can't read it. It's a difficult series to explain because it is a slice of life romance manga which is set in high school, and we are following a lot of different romances that are going on, but we're focusing on these two girls who are the managers for their kendo club at their high school, and one day they end up bumping into this group of boys from a different high school who are part of a kendo club. So it's about a romance formed between those two girls and the guys in this group, and there are some love triangles in this series. This really fun romance going on between the main girl, who is very outspoken, very out there. People are afraid of her. She gets these love letters that are like, please yell at me, and she's like, why do I get these? Like, what what do I do? And then one of the star boys on the opposite kendo team, it's mainly their romance with like a lot of difficulties going on in between, but also the side character romances are really sweet, so I love this one. The next manga that I purchased that is not in English, I bought it on eBay from Europe, and it's so funny when this arrived. My dad was like, what did you get from Europe? I go, oh, it's a manga. He goes, oh. I go, yeah, I got it from Germany. And he goes, you don't speak German? And I go, no, I don't speak German, but it's my favorite. And he goes like, okay, that's weird, I'm gonna leave now. That is AAA. This is my favorite manga of probably all time. If you have not heard of this manga series, sadly it's not translated into English. You can buy it in German or, you know, regular Japanese, but you can't read it in English unless you find scanlations. I've probably reread this manga the most out of any manga out there. So it is set with these two high schools. One of them is for very prestigious students and one of them is for delinquents, and it's a romance between like the top girl from the like special school. She's considered like in the A class, which is like where this comes from, and the head delinquent boy of the school next door, because she actually met him during the entrance exams to these schools and he actually scored higher than she did. He never actually ended up going to the school, and so she was like, she created this whole image of him in her head where she was like in love with him, and then she ends up meeting him like years and years later, finding out that he's next door, and like it's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites easily. She ends up dressing up as a guy to go next door to like meet him for the first time, and he turns her into his lackey, and it's just like, it's so good. I love this series so much. Okay, now onto some like single mangas that I just bought within the last year. We have Living Room Matsunaga-san. So we follow Miko, and she ends up moving into her uncle's boarding house kind of, and she meets all the unruly people who live there, and she actually ends up falling for one of the guys who is there, and that's Matsunaga-san. And it is their romance. Obviously there is an age gap in this. She's a high school student, he is not. But I love this, it's super sweet and I adore the art style. We have Something's Wrong With Us, and this is by Natsumi Endo, who is one of my favorite mangakas of all time. This is a little difficult to explain because you learn things that aren't mentioned in the synopses. So we follow now, and she grew up with her mum being a very famous Japanese sweet maker, and she was at the top of her game. Then one day her mum ends up getting accused of murdering the guy that she worked for, and so her mum was put in jail, she died in jail, and now made it her, you know, goal in life to avenge her mum and figure out what happened. And present day, she's in her 20s, she's become a bit of a renowned Japanese sweet maker, but she's not the best of the best. And she has the opportunity to get this one job that would help her make a lot more money, but she finds out that she actually has to compete against this other guy to see who will actually get the job. And it turns out it's the guy who is the son of the man her mum was accused of killing. It's really great. I've only read the first one in this series. I definitely want to get my hands on the rest because it's just awesome. We have Soul Eater, the perfect edition. I adore Soul Eater. It is one of my favorite animes to watch of all time, and so I'm really excited to now own the mangas because I actually haven't read them. I've only ever watched the show, which is a little bit taboo, but it happens. It's been quite a few years since I last watched the anime, but it's set in a world where there is a Grim Reaper and he trains others, and so we're following like a bunch of different sets of people who are training. Each of these people, their weapons are actually people. So Maka, who is who we're following here, and her scythe is actually this guy named Soul. It's a really complex series and it deals with a lot of different issues, but I highly recommend it if you have not checked it out already. We have Alice in Murderland Volume 1. I have only actually read Volume 1, but I was super excited when I managed to get my hands on a copy of this. It is one of the few mangas that are published in hardback regardless of it being like a special edition or anything. So following this one clan, and they are very prestigious. Every month they meet together for a mad tea party, which is just a clan meeting. The thing is that this one clan meeting ends up going completely awry when the mother ends up announcing to her 9 children that they must now all fight to the death to see who will become the new head of the clan. And we follow Stella, who is the 4th daughter. Obviously each of our siblings have a certain thing about them, and for Stella, when she gets into certain situations, she transforms into Alice, and Alice is a murdering machine. It's really cool. Now, I'm not sure, like during my last update, I don't know where I was in telling you what volumes I have of this, but we have LDK here. I have volumes 1 through 7 currently. I talk about LDK a lot. It is one of my favorite manga series and I feel like I don't see it talked about enough, but LDK stands for Love, Dining, Kitchen. It is a romance between these 2 high school students who both live alone, and she tries to repaint her apartment and then doesn't realize that the paint fumes are going to kill her. So then she's forced to actually live with Shisei while her apartment gets back under control, and they have to keep it secret because if people at school find out they're living together, it's like, no-nos. So I love this series. So next I have a series that has become really popular in the last couple months because of the anime adaptation, but this is something that I had actually read quite a few years back, and I've been slowly collecting as I can find volumes for reasonable prices because these are always expensive mangas and they never go on sale. And that series is Horimiya. I've talked about them before. Obviously this is volume 4, which is the volume that I'm up to collecting, so now I'm just gonna keep going, but these are always $12 or like 14 bucks, and they never go on sale. They never go on sale. So like I collect them very sporadically because every other manga is like $9. But if for some reason you're not familiar with Horimiya and all the hype that's been surrounding it lately, we're following a girl named Hori and a guy named Miyamura, which is where Hori and Miya comes from. And Hori is a very popular girl at her school. She's very revered, everyone loves her, and she has a younger sibling, and she is actually a lot more studious, a lot more serious than people at school view her as. She has a very tough home life because she has had to take over the motherly role in her household, and she's got a lot going on. And then we follow Miyamura, who at school is this very dorky, very lonery guy who no one really speaks to, until one day Hori ends up seeing Miya outside of school, and it turns out that he has this total bad boy persona. He's not a bad boy, like at all, he's a complete not a cinnamon roll, but his appearance is that of a very attractive bad boy. And it's their friendship, and he completely falls in love with her, and she slowly falls in love with him, and it's such a good romance. I love this series so much. I definitely want to do like a full reread before I watch the series. We have Time Stranger Kyoko Volume 3. I already own Volume 1 and 2, but this is by one of my favorite mangakas, Arina Tanemura. She has written a lot of different series, and she's a mangaka with a style that I just adore. Like, she has probably the prettiest manga style out of anyone. Here's just a very vague example of what the artwork looks like. She has like a very traditional, very old looking style when it comes to like how mangas used to be published. A lot more nowadays I tend to be more fine-lined and clear. This is only a 3-volume series, so now I completely own it all. Time Stranger Kyoko is one of my favorites. It follows a girl who has a twin sister, but her older sister actually has been in a coma for years now, and the only way that Kyoko can prevent herself from having to take over her sister's role and actually become like the queen is if she can find a way to awaken her. And so she ends up having to locate these time strangers to make up the places on a clock in order to activate and wake up her sister, and that's what the series is about. It has a lot of twists and turns in it. The ending of this series just like me, like I was so shocked by how this series ended. I adore it, and yeah, I'm very excited to show you these next two mangas. I have Ultramaniac Volume 1 and Volume 2. If you are not familiar with Ultramaniac, that's pretty understandable. It's an old series. It's the first anime that I ever borrowed from one of my best friends, and she, God, how old was I? I was probably like 10 maybe, and she sent me her DVDs for them and I would watch them all, and I was so obsessed. I knew all the words to the intro and the outro. So we have Nina and we have Ayu, and now Nina is actually a magical girl. She is currently in Japan in our world because she has to complete certain tasks in order to actually advance and graduate like from her whole magic thing. And she ends up befriending and accidentally revealing that she is a magical girl to Ayu, and it's their friendship as Nina makes a lot of mistakes along the way with her magic, and she messes some things up, and so she always has to cover for her, and they both have their own romances in this. It's such a typical just shoujo magical girl manga. I don't really know what else to say about it other than that. Next we have Ultra Cute Volumes 1 through 3. This is a series that I read years ago, and then I found them at a half price books for super cheap, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna buy them. And then I reread them and I was like, these aren't as good as I remember, but it's okay because the nostalgia is still there. I mean, obviously they're all there from Tokyo Pop, but so we are following best friends Noah and Ami. Now they are always competing because they always tend to fall for the same guys, and guys like them. They're very popular girls, but they're popular for different reasons. Ami is your very typical cute, sweet girl, and Noah is your typical like bad looking girl. And for the first time, they actually end up falling for guys that aren't the same person. The problem is that these guys that they're falling for may not actually be very good people. It's basically just following their romances with these two guys and all the different ups and downs that they experience, and I do enjoy it. It does have some problematic elements, but I still like it. I'm super excited to show you Love Attack. We have volumes 1 through 6 here. So our main character is Kemi, and she has been suspended from school multiple times for fighting. Now, she doesn't fight with people because she's a bad person. She does it for the greater good, but she still gets in trouble for it. And she's also just like a very tough chick. So she ends up one day getting almost expelled, and the head of the school's like, look, we won't expel you if you can bring this other guy back to school. And she's like, okay. And this guy has a really bad reputation because everyone calls him the devil. So she goes to bring him back, and he is such a cinnamon roll. He's like a big bear. I mean, yeah, like when he gets mad and he fights, like he is the devil, but he's actually really sweet, and he instantly falls in love with her. And it is just so funny because like she can like hold her own ground for the first time, and it's just, I love this. So the last time I updated you on this manga, I had volumes 1 and 2, and now we're in volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13. This series is going to be My Little Monster. It is one of my favorite animes out there, and I was so distraught when the anime ended, like all animes do after a season, and you're like, well, what happens next? So I went and I was like, I'm just gonna read them all, and that's what I did. So we follow Shizuki, and she is a very studious, very well-known girl at her school. She has trouble saying no to people, so teachers take advantage of her a lot of the time, getting her to do extra work for them. And one day the teacher's like, hey, I need you to bring this assignment to this guy who has not come to school. And she's like, oh, I don't know about that. And I'm like, well, thank you, goodbye. And she's like, oh, okay, I'll bring this assignment to him. And that guy is Haru, and he has quite a bad reputation at their school, like always, but he's actually, once again, a very sweet guy. And he meets Shizuki and he falls for her instantly, and she's like, what the heck? And he's like, I'll come to school for you, you're really cool. And she's like, what is going on? And it's a really fun series because while we do follow the two of them and their really sweet, very cute romance, we have a lot of side characters who have love triangles, and there are other people that come in and try and break them apart. But they're very new at this whole romance thing and they don't really know how to deal with their feelings for one another, and she's just like, I'm so used to being alone and being a loner, and now suddenly like I have all these people around me, like what's going on? And I adore this series so much. And then the last manga for this update is going to be Arisa Volume 4. I own volumes 1 and 2 as well. I don't own volume 3, but this is by Natsumi Endo. And this is a series that is a mystery, but it has like a very, very, very small romantic subplot, which is a romance I totally like stood by the entire time. So for these two twins, Tsubasa and Arisa, and they love each other. They were like super close as children, but when their parents got divorced, they each went their separate ways with the separate parents. And then we follow present day when it turns out that Arisa has committed suicide. She failed and it didn't work, but there was a note that her sister Tsubasa found, and it said, Arisa is a traitor. And it seemed to have originated from her school. And so she's like, oh my god, was my sister being bullied? Like, what happened? So she goes undercover to the school as her sister to like pretend, like to assume her identity to find out what went wrong. And she ends up uncovering like this whole messed up thing that's going on at her private school. Turns out there's this game that goes on where every week they pick someone to like either bully or pick someone to just like completely ruin their life. It can be a teacher, it can be another student, it can be a random person. Like, it is very, very messed up. But I really love this series. I was always like, who is actually behind everything? Like, what's really going on? Like, how did everything work out? And it was really cool. But yeah, that's it for this manga update video. A lot of the mangas that I did get were all part of the same series, so I didn't have to sit here and be like, this is this one, this is this one. Like, I bought 17 books from one series and 18 books from another. Which is so typical of me. I'll go to a store and they'll be like, here's volumes 1 through 5 for $3 each. And I'm like, oh, $3 each? I'll buy them all. But then when you multiply 3 by 10, it ends up being 30 bucks and you're like, well, crap. But yeah, that's it. Let me know if you have read any of these mangas, if you want me to do some... Actually, I do have some manga recommendation videos coming up soon. I just need to plan them out. But yeah. If you did enjoy this video, please hit the like button down below. If you want to see more of me, please subscribe to my channel. And until next time, thanks a bunch. Bye!